You already know $50 a week won't make you rich. You're right, but it does something the rich number never mentions. It outpays a pension every month for the rest of your life. In this video, Josh builds the whole thing from scratch. The exact 5 Fidelity Index Funds, why each one earns its spot, and what $50 a week turns into by retirement. Then we'll line that income up against what the average American really retires on. And by the end, I'll show you how Josh combined the 5 funds into a portfolio that's projected to turn $50 a week into a $1 million portfolio that pays over $6,000 a month in dividend income, more than 3 times the average pension. So before Josh picks a single fund, let's get honest about the thing he's actually trying to beat. Because when you hear pension, you're probably picturing your parents' version, a check that shows up every month guaranteed for doing your 40 years. That check is mostly gone. The thing most people actually retire on is Social Security, and right now the average retired worker collects about $2,081 a month from it. That's the real baseline. That's what the typical person is living on. And it's not even an even split. Men tend to land higher, around $2,400 a month. Women come in noticeably lower, just over $1,900, often after years out of the workforce raising kids, which pulls the check down. So for a lot of people, the real number they're retiring on sits under $2,000. The old school pension, the kind your grandfather actually had, mostly gone. Only about 1 in 3 retirees even gets income from a pension anymore. And for those who do, the median private pension pays around $11,440 a year, a little under $1,000 a month, sitting on top of Social Security. So that's the bar, somewhere around $2,000 a month for most people, maybe a bit more if you're one of the lucky ones with a pension stacked on. Now here's the part I want to be straight about. Social Security is guaranteed. It lands every month for the rest of your life and it adjusts for inflation. What Josh is building doesn't work like that. It's tied to the market, so it rises and falls, and if you're careless with it, you can draw it down to nothing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is the same kind of safe. We're asking one specific question: can $50 a week beat the number? Josh wants 3 things from this money, and they usually don't come from the same fund. He wants it to grow. He wants it to actually pay him, not just get bigger on paper. And he doesn't want the whole thing riding on one country having a good decade. Growth, income, and a bet that's spread out. The problem is simple. No single fund does all 3 well. The one that grows fastest doesn't pay you much. The one that pays you moves up slowly. So he's not picking a fund. He's building something where each piece covers what the others can't. Josh starts with one almost everyone would: FXAIX, Fidelity's S&P 500 Index Fund. It's the 500 biggest companies in America, Apple, Microsoft, and the rest of them, packed into one thing you buy in a single click. Boring on purpose, and about as close to bulletproof as investing gets. And on paper, it looks like he might not need anything else. FXAIX pays a dividend yield of 1.05%. Its dividends have grown around 6.84% a year over the last 5 years, and the share price has climbed an average of 13.33% a year. That last number is the whole reason people love this fund. Roughly 13% a year is what turns $50 a week into a fortune, as long as you give it the time. But look at that first number again, 1.05%. On a fund this size, that's almost no income at all. If Josh invests his whole $50 a week right here, he'd end up with a massive pile of money by retirement, but nothing actually paying him each month. Great growth, barely any income. So he needs something that actually pays him. And this is where he lands: FSPSX, Fidelity's International Index Fund. It holds the big developed economies outside the US, Europe and Japan, and that part of the world. The yield here is 5.75%. Next to FXAIX's 1%, that's not an improvement, it's a different category, more than 5 times the income off the same dollar. Quick thing worth knowing, since that payout is so much bigger than a US fund's. Companies overseas tend to pay in 1 or 2 big lumps a year instead of quarterly checks, and the amounts swing with currencies and profits. So the income is real, but it shows up twice a year. The dividends here have grown fast too, somewhere around 18% a year. That's roughly half of what FXAIX manages, so this fund pays well and the income even grows, But the share price on FSPSX has climbed about 6.75% a year over the past decade. We're 2 funds in, 3 to go. And in the end, I'll show you how Josh combines these funds into a portfolio that's projected to turn $50 a week into a $1 million portfolio, one that's projected to pay him over $6,000 a month in dividend income. But first, let's finish the funds. We've got one fund focused on growth and one for dividends. Fund 3 is a mix of both. That fund is FITLX, Fidelity's U.S. Sustainability Index Fund. On paper, it's larger American companies that score well on environmental and social measures. In practice, it runs like a hotter version of that S&P fund. Growth is the pitch. FITLX's share price has climbed an average of 14.07% a year, the fastest of anything Josh ends up holding, and its dividends have been growing about 15.42% a year, one of the quickest climbs in the whole lineup. That's the mix part. The yield today is 1.02%. Small, no argument there. But a 1% dividend growing at 15% a year doesn't stay 1% for long. It won't hand him a big check today, but the check it does pay is growing faster. Next up, Josh widens the net. His international money so far sits entirely in developed markets: Europe, Japan, the usual names. That leaves out a whole half of the world's economy. That's where FSGGX comes in, Fidelity's Global ex-US Index Fund. Ex-US just means everything outside of America, packed into one fund, developed and developing, all of it. Here's the case for it. FSGGX hands him a 2.37% yield, more than double what his American growth funds pay, and its dividends have been growing about 15.15% a year, nearly keeping pace with his fastest fund. The share price grows more slowly, around 7.19% a year, but that's not really this fund's job. Its job is to make sure Josh isn't betting everything on one country. The last piece is FERGX, Fidelity's Emerging Markets Index Fund. Emerging markets are the up-and-comers: India, Brazil, chunks of Southeast Asia. Economies growing faster than the developed world, but with bigger swings along the way. Higher risk, higher potential reward. Josh already owns a small portion of this inside FSGGX. This fund turns that portion into a real position. It's a deliberate move. Take the fastest growing part of the world and stop treating it as a rounding error. On its own, FERGX would be a rough ride. That's the whole reason it goes in alongside 4 other funds instead of on its own. Its job is to add a shot of growth and pull in a direction the American funds don't, so the whole portfolio doesn't rise and fall on one story. The numbers fit that role: a 2.15% yield, dividends growing around 13.69% a year, and share price growth near 7.12%. Not the loudest fund in the group, but it gives Josh a real stake in the economies most likely to outgrow everyone else in the future. Now Josh has the full lineup: 5 funds, each one covering something the others couldn't. The anchor, the income, the fast grower, the developed world, and the wild card. Blend all 5 together, weighted evenly, and the portfolio comes out at a 2.47% starting yield, dividends growing about 13.82% a year, and share price growth around 9.69% a year. That middle number is the one that matters. Dividends climbing at nearly 14% a year is what turns a modest 2.47% today into real income 3 decades out. Blend them into one portfolio and the numbers settle here: a starting dividend yield of 2.47%, dividends growing at about 13.82% a year, and the share price is climbing roughly 9.69% a year on average. Now the only question left is what the projections show for this portfolio. After year 1, Josh would have invested about $2,600, which is his $50 a week contribution over the 52 weeks of the year. By year 10, projections show the account valued at around $47,565. The dividends that year are projected at roughly $1,410. Still small, but the engine's turning over now. By year 20, the portfolio is projected to reach about $230,137. The income has climbed to somewhere near $10,800 a year. That's real money now, nearly $1,000 a month, showing up without Josh selling a thing. And by year 30, the portfolio would be valued at about $1.1 million. Over the 30 years, Josh would add roughly $78,000 from his weekly contribution. The market and the reinvested dividends are projected to add more than $1 million to his contribution. But the balance was not the goal, the paycheck was. By year 30, that portfolio is projected to pay Josh around $6,238 a month in dividends without selling a single share or touching the principal. Now line that up against the bar we set at the start. The average American is projected to retire on about $2,000 a month from Social Security. Josh's 50-a-week habit is projected to pay more than 3 times that. And if you're one of the lucky ones, only about 1 in 3 retirees still gets a pension. You'd stack that on top of Social Security. Call it $950 from the pension, $2,081 from Social Security, a little over $3,000 a month combined. That's the best case most people can hope for. Josh's portfolio still beats it by more than 2 times. This portfolio was built for one job, monthly income. But if you'd rather chase growth, 3 tech ETFs that each beat QQQ and one projected to turn $10,000 into more than $8 million. That video's on screen right now. I'll see you there.